I'ma feel guilty, but I'ma still eat my snacks and watch my show. Ooh, I feel bad. Ooh, I hear that man crying. What? Don't knock on my door. I'm in here feeling guilty. No.
To another episode of Kingdom Woman Talk, where we encourage and empower women to do life. Today we're going to be talking about caring versus coping. Is there really a difference?
I think so.
Is there?
Yeah.
There's a difference? Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what do you think the difference is? Because in life, we sometimes situationally fall on one side or the other. Like sometimes we want to cope because that's easy. Sometimes caring is easy. So what makes the difference for you? What have you found makes the difference?
I think probably making hard decisions. Like, am I going to stay in this particular situation just because for the sake of caring? Or is it for the sake of coping? Am I just going to deal with it just because, I don't want to do the work to get out of the situation?
Yeah.
Or am I going to just stay for that purpose?
Yeah.
Or am I going to care enough about myself to get myself out of it?
I think that's the key, caring about enough for ourselves.
Right.
What do you think?
I think I agree with her, and also, like I said earlier, sometimes we cope because it's familiar, or we don't want to muddy the waters, especially on a job where we might have a micromanager or a coworker that's hostile, or it's just difficult to be there. But the norm, everybody is, that's just how they are. That's just how he is. That's just how she is. So do we cope with that environment because we care about our livelihood? Because I can make good money here.
Right.
Where else am I going to go? It's hard finding a job.
Yeah.
So we cope with situations that may be negative for us.
Right.
But we cope with it because we're looking at who's going to care, or how am I going to get care in the areas of financial, be it rent, car payment, children, babysitter. So, it just depends on the situation where we're not taking time to say, wait a minute, I care about myself too much. Right. You can stay at that job but be looking for another job.
So does caring handicap us? No, does coping handicap us in some level, on some level? Do you think when we are coping with a situation, even though we know coping is the lesser requirement, coping could also, or sometimes in situations, coping could be the stronger requirement, right? It takes more to cope than to leave, right? Or or in other situations, coping could mean that I'm dumbing myself down, right? To cope in this environment. I could give more, but I'm scaling it back. So is there a benefit to coping? Or do you think, or what does God want us to do? Does God want us to cope, or he want us to care?
I think he wants us to care. And something crossed my mind when you were just speaking a minute ago. You notice when someone dies and you ask, how you doing? I'm coping.
Oh, yeah.
I'm coping with it.
I'm getting along. I'm getting by.
I'm getting along with it. I haven't come to terms with it. You know, in that instance, I think it's not a bad thing, nor is it a good thing. It's just where we are at this immediate moment.
So we taught that because you're right about that. We do say that a lot. I'm like, I'm just coping. I'm getting by. I'm just making it day by day. All of those are indicators that we're just coping. Because coping means that I'm just functioning. I'm not really on purpose. I'm not living on purpose. I may not be fulfilling purpose. I may not even be fulfilling the assignment, right? Or I'm just kind of showing up, doing what I got to do, one day to the next day to the next day.
Right.
So then, am I self-sabotaging at that point? Do you think that we're self-sabotaging because we show up coping rather than show up in the full strength of God, which is to self-care?
Yeah, I would say that would be a certain way to self-sabotage, because you're not fully who you are or walking in who you are, and you're not doing the necessaries to make sure that you present authentically who you are. Because you are so busy coping that it's overwhelming. It's becoming outweighing or outshining who you authentically are.
So then, but also, do you not agree that a part of self-sabotaging also and scaling it back is that we do that because we don't want to be seen, or because rather than make the other person uncomfortable by who I am, then I'll scale it back so that they can be okay. So we see that more often than not. We're dumbing ourselves down for the sake of someone else, which is another form of self-sabotage. So then if God wants us to truly care, then how do we do that? What does self-care look like? Do we even know that? Do we even know what self-care is? So many people are like, I'm learning to self-care.
I mean, I think for women, though, it takes a lot for us to not put ourselves on the back burner because we're always nurturing, taking care of the house, making sure that everything is straight, making sure our husbands are, their needs are met and things of that nature. But, you become so overwhelmed with being the caretaker of the home, you kind of leave yourself out of the equation a lot of times. So it is a self-taught, and sometimes you can feel kind of guilty.
That's true. We do feel, because there's this, mom guilt is real. Mom guilt, family guilt, spouse guilt, those things are real. Those are real things when we feel like we can't show up fully, or I'm giving partial. So that's a real thing.
Right.
So, but what does self-care look like? Have you ever had to say, you know what? I'm throwing caution to the wind, and today I'm going to care about Sheila. And what does that look like?
Yes, ma'am. I have. It's like, don't call me. You got a mom and daddy in this house. I'm going to close my door and I'm going to get back in my bed, because I'm not the kind of person, once I wake up, I feel like I need to hit the floor and do something, But for me, self-care is, why I need to get up? I don't need to get up except for to eat something and take myself back to bed if I want to.
Right.
Or if I want to, hey, which one of y'all's cards can I use? Because I'm about to run up the road, going thrifting, because that was my thing. Even when I was married, I'd get up on Saturdays and I'd go to the thrift store, I'd go to the grocery store. I had a routine. I went to the library and got me a bunch of books because I enjoy reading. Self-care for me was reading one of my favorite authors, or watching my favorite show on TV, So self-care can come in many forms. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I need to go to the spa and get a massage, or it could just be scaling it back. The sink is full of dishes. Hey, sink is full of dishes. Somebody need to get them washed. Dishwasher need to be emptied.
Right.
These are the things that I've learned because I've worn myself out doing them.
Yeah.
So now it's like, wait a minute, they old enough to do? Hey, I'm going to show you once how to sweep the floor, and this is what I expect you to do.
Right. Right. So self-care could also be. So then what I'm gathering from it, and one of the things I also learned, is that we have to teach people what self-care looks like for us.
Yes.
Because it's different for you, it's different for you, it's different for me, what that truly means. And then make sure that they honor that. Because if they don't, then we're right back into coping. I'm just coping. And God don't want us going through life coping. He wants us to go through life on destiny, right?
On purpose.
Fulfilling the purpose that He has established for us. So then, how do we do that without feeling guilty? Because sometimes we do feel guilty when we're just like, today I'm not doing nothing. I'm staying in my pajamas. And I'm standing in bed. I'm not cooking. I'm not cleaning. I'm not going nowhere. I'm not taking anybody anywhere. How do we shut that door and not feel guilty?
I'm going to feel guilty, but I'm going to still eat my snacks and watch my show. Oh, I feel bad. Oh, I hear them in there crying. What? Don't knock on my door. I'm in here feeling guilty. No. But sometimes I think we have to talk ourselves out of that.
Wait.
What I feel guilty about?
She said, don't knock on my door. I'm
Me
in here feeling guilty.
Leave me alone. No. You got to learn how to say no. No to guilt, and you taught me that. There are days still, I hear Pooh in there. She getting in trouble. Let me go get her. Wait a minute. That ain't my child.
Right.
I don't like to hear her cry unless I'm the one making her cry, but oh well.
Right.
She on her own.
So we have to just stay the course.
Yeah.
Because I'm guilty of that. I will feel like, oh my goodness, I've done this, and that, but I haven't done this over here, which so-and-so asked me to do like 2 days ago. And I'm like, I need to get that done, rather than reshift the priorities. But so now I'm getting that done, and now I'm so I done jumped into cope mode rather than self-care when I know I have a plethora of things that need to get done. So I need to be taking care of me, and sometimes I don't take the best care of me. I'm going, doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think self-care also requires us saying no when we say yes.
Yeah.
When our self-care is telling us no.
Yeah.
Say no. I cannot do that for you. Don't mean no harm, but I just can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's hard for women, especially nurturers or people pleasers.
Yeah.
People who've always been in control, or you just don't want to say no because you don't want this person to think any differently of you, because you said yes so many times before.
Right.
And it's hard for people to hear a no when all they've been hearing is a yes, I'll do it.
Right.
Oh, sure, I'll do it.
Right.
No problem.
Right.
When in the back of your mind you're saying, I really don't feel like doing it. I don't have the time to do it, or I just don't want to do it.
So should we do it begrudgingly?
What, self-care?
Or like to what Sheila was saying, do you think like she's like, we'll do it even though really we should have been saying no? I said yes because I don't really want you to be mad. I don't want you, I don't, I want you always support me, so I want to be a blessing to you, when really I probably should be saying no. So am I doing it begrudgingly?
Probably.
And is that a good thing?
No.
No, it's not. It's not.
Your heart's not in it.
Your heart is not in
Your
it.
motives are like, they asked me to do this. I don't really want to, but I'm going to do it.
Right. Right.
And you do it, and then you're like, here you go, with that fake smile. Here you go.
So one of the things I also learned was about when we're caring for others, it's easy to go to default to coping mode.
Yes.
When we're caring for others. That's the biggest piece. As adults, we often care for our adult parents, our adult aunts, uncles, loved ones, sometimes our grandchildren, we care for them, our great-grands. We pick up so many different hats, even though it may not be directly caring for our immediate family. It's an extension, sometimes extension of family. And it's easy to go into coping mode. It's almost like coping becomes like time to make the donuts. I get up at 5 o'clock, I gotta go here, then I go here, then I gotta do this, then I go to work. When I get off work, I gotta go here, 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 and here. So how do we cope with coping, if that's such a thing?
You do end up doing that, coping with coping.
Right.
Because you're kind of like on autopilot, when you're coping. So after you're done, with your session or your round of being on autopilot, then comes in, how do you cope with what was left outside of that time frame that you were on autopilot doing what you automatically do.
Right.
Because there's still some things that you didn't get done.
Right.
That really should have been attended to, but you were too busy coping.
Right. So then now it becomes cope with the thing. Now I need to cope with coping because I've dropped the ball on some different things. But is that not how do you think that we spend more time coping or more time caring?
I think we spend more time coping than we do caring.
Coping. So is it because of things that we've done? Like, I own those things. I said yes to this. I took on more than I could chew, right? Rather than delegate, I'm going to do. I can fix it. I can this. Everything is I. Right?
Yeah.
When we do have a support system in place sometimes, but we don't want to relinquish. Because sometimes I hear people all the time now, delegation, I'm okay with that. I love to delegate. I don't mind delegating. But I often hear people sometimes who say, that's hard for me because I don't want to be a burden to other people. So how do we overcome that? Or have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like if I ask them to do this or I ask them to partner with me, ask them to assist me with this, then they already got a lot to do. I don't want to ask them.
Or we genuinely feel like it's not going to get done, so we'll end up having to do it anyway.
So, yeah.
That's trusting, which is circles around to control.
Yeah.
Which comes back to, I just might as well do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Which means now we've taken on something that we could have delegated and allow that person to either do it right or wrong.
Yeah.
And let it be. If it's wrong, we help them correct it.
Yes.
If we can.
Yeah.
If it's right, then job well done.
Yeah. Isn't it though? We do that piece more so with our families, right? I'll just clean the bathroom because every time you clean the bathroom, miss this. I'll just cook because you just make a mess. I'll get the dishes. I'll do the laundry because you're always putting the whites with the this and the so forth and so on. One thing I did learn over my years of being married is whatever they contribute, I got to be okay with it because I can't say everything falls on me. But then when they try to help in, I can't. I'm nitpicking. You can't get that right. You left something in the corner. Every time you sweep the floor, you forgot to sweep behind the counter. Or every time you clean the kitchen, you forgot to wipe the table off, and then I got to come do the table. Okay, well, the fact that they cleaned the kitchen, left the table, that's still 90%. Can I be happy with the 90% and then now only got 10% to come behind? But instead, we take it all back. I just got it. Rather than being grateful for what the contribution is. And like you said, grow that. Like help them grow in that particular area. So some of it is our fault. Right? Yeah. I don't want to relinquish control in that particular area, or my standards is this high, and because you don't measure up, then you can't contribute nothing. Like I just totally discount you at that point. So how do we break that cycle?
It just depends. Are we using coping as a control mechanism? Or are we using coping as a victimization? Like, woe is me, the poor housewife. I just got so much to do.
It probably could be both, though, Sheila, right? Kind of like, sort of like, I think it probably can be both. One thing I learned, this had to be in the early 90s, I worked for a company, and this older lady, she was her and I became really good friends. She became like a mentor to me. And one of the things she said to me one day was, she was like, "You newly married?" And I was like, "Yes." And she said, "Well, one piece of advice I want to give you that I learned." She said, "Never put your husband down for not being able to measure up to what you need him to do around the house." An example she gave me, she was like, if he washed the dishes but only do the dishes and not the pots and pans, she said, don't come behind him and wash the pots and pans saying you'll never clean the kitchen right, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. She said, because then he's not going to clean the kitchen anymore and you're going to be left with it complaining about how you don't help me and you don't clean the kitchen.
Right.
And I was like, that's really good advice. But then you take that and put that into other areas of our life, right? We're stuck with cleaning up our kids' room. Why? Because we say they don't clean it good enough. Right. We're stuck with cleaning the yard. Why? Because nobody can pull the weeds out the flower bed like I need them to be pulled. So are we truly self-sabotaging in all these different areas of our life, but then complaining about, I'm so overwhelmed and I ain't got nobody to help me?
Yes. Yeah. And what I'm learning is, like, if I tell the one that's old enough now to wash dishes and, don't forget to wipe down the counters and then wipe the table, sweep the floor. Hey, you did a good job sweeping that floor.
Right.
Oh, you did a good job with the dishes. You forgot to put them up, but you did a good job of washing them. They're clean this time, So we have to learn how to taper the expectation with some love and some, some attaboyism, like, wow, you did a good job.
Yeah.
You forgot that, but you did a good job, and not go back and do it. Like, you forgot that, so get that done, but everything else is spectacular.
Right.
So they're not, I can't do nothing right.
That's the piece. No matter at what, no matter the age, we can give off, you can't do nothing right. Which then creates a whole nother something. Because it's whether they're little, adults, husbands,
exactly,
parents, whatever, we can still give off that. You can't make people feel like you don't do anything right. And at the end of the day, why? Because I want it done from left to right and you did it from right to left.
Yeah.
So that means you
Control.
can't do nothing right. Control.
Yeah.
So coping is controlling the situation. Self-care, I'm throwing caution to the wind, right? And I'm saying, I'm just going to focus on me.
Yeah.
And what makes me happy. I'm going to carve time out for the things that I enjoy doing. And hope you like it. Because if you don't, it don't really matter, because self-care is needed. We need that to function. We need a refreshing, a renewing, right?
I either get some self-care now, or I'm going to self-care myself on into the hospital somewhere.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, then how are you going to be expected to take care of your family, even to a small degree? Because if you're mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and now you're physically tired, who gains anything?
Yeah.
Nobody. Everybody loses.
Yeah.
So, and then the other part is we also have to teach people how to treat us in the area of self-care. Like, I'm not saying you all I don't have one, but say you have a mother-in-law that comes by your house and doesn't think you clean well enough.
Does that happen?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Checking.
You have a mother, that comes by your house and doesn't think that you clean well enough. Do you break your neck trying to clean her standards? Or do you just, oh, well, that's what she thinks?
See, I've not been in that predicament. I don't know.
Not
anybody.
either.
Well, let's just say anybody that's in your family or your friends or, because there are some people that just
now
be picky about.
What I will say is, growing up, my parents have always instilled that you break your neck to get your house clean if you know people are coming over. Right. That's how I kind of grew up.
Yeah.
We grew up cleaning on a routine and to keep
Me
the house
too.
clean.
Yeah.
But then if you knew people was coming over, then it took on a whole new level, right?
Yeah.
Only for them to come in and tear the house right back up again,
Right.
you know. But anywho, that's a whole different topic. But, you know, you then had to, so I feel like now looking at that situation, were we putting on airs? Yeah. You know, we were, because we were jumping through hoops to make sure this was done.
So we wouldn't look bad.
So we wouldn't look bad, but we never kept a dirty house anyway.
Right.
But it became, you know, the stuff that would happen occasionally became, or it needs to happen right now. So we take that into our adulthood. You know, now I remember, you know, if you all were coming over my house and if I just tidied up, then be like, oh, Angie and Sheila, I'm coming over. Okay, let me clean. Let me get this bathroom real good. Let me get this kitchen real good. Because that's kind of what you instill until you, I guess you wake up.
And realize that.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know, you keeping a clean house so you can stay ready. So you don't have to do what was coping because you was routinely. It was like autopilot, like you said. It just became, you about to have people coming over. First thing you do is, oh, let me clean. You're like, but you look around, the house is not even dirty. It becomes, let me do this, let me do this, let me do this. Those are things that we learn to do, learn behavior to do. And you just kind of have to pump the brakes on some of that and say, wait a minute, that's not what we need today, like, or that's not how I want to operate, that's not how I want to function. So we got to pump the brakes on some of that stuff.
Right.
Or we're spinning our wheels.
Right.
So our takeaways would be self-care is needed.
All the time.
All the time. Make time for self-care.
Yes.
All right. Don't be a yes person when really you should probably balance that with some no's. And also, don't feel guilty about self-care, right?
Right.
It's necessary in order for you to continue on, or you're going to find yourself coping, which is autopilot. So,
and this came across, how can you receive from God if you're so busy coping and doing all this other stuff?
you can't.
You can't receive what God has for you if He's trying to get in your ear.
And you're busy.
And you busy coping with, hold on, Lord, because I got to deal with this right here first.
Right.
Get with me when I lay my head down. I'll get with you, Lord, as soon as everything gets quiet. And you go upstairs when you finally
And
do
then
go
you
upstairs
sleep in
and go
2
to bed,
seconds.
and you out.
As soon as you hit the pillow, you're out. So you're right. It impacts every level, especially your spiritual level. And then we need that so that we can continue to be poured into. Right? We need that refreshing. We need that strength, and we need that nourishment.
Yeah.
So self-care on every level, spiritually, mentally, and physically, is needed.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, ladies, for another conversation. We continue to enlighten each other on just life, right?
Yes.
Things that we
Yes.
don't bring conversation to, we definitely want to shed light to. So we just thank you for joining us again for another Kingdom Woman Talk. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram at Kingdom Woman Talk. Until next time, be blessed.